Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant morning to you all, and welcome to the workshop with African candidates to Master and Doctoral Degrees in Korea. My name is Han Yun Park, your MC for today's event, and it is my great honor and great pleasure to be guiding you throughout today's proceedings. It's an honor to meet you all. Thank you very much. Now, today's forum is streaming live on the Korea African Foundation YouTube channel. And once again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for sparing your very valuable time to be here with us today, both on and offline. Now, the workshop with African candidates to master and doctor degrees provides African students here in Korea to share their research achievements in various fields of studies. Now, this will contribute to strengthen academic and intellectual networks among international students and also promote exchanges between young people from both countries. Now, a total of 7 master's and doctoral students will be giving their excellent presentations, and presenters have been divided into 2 groups for the discussion on common keywords. And now for our workshop panelists, I would like to introduce our advisor who will be joining us for today's panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kim Gae-ri, Research Professor at CFLE, Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Please welcome with a big round of applause. Thank you very much. And next we have Kim Hee-ju, Professor at Department of Marine Fisheries Education at Pugyang National University. Thank you for your presence. So now, as I announce the opening of today's event, please join me with a big round of applause. Hosted by the Korea Africa Foundation and created together by all of you, let us now begin the workshop with African candidates to master and doctor degrees in Korea. Yes, thank you very much. Now, before we begin, I would like to inform our viewers online that we are waiting for your questions and comments. Please submit it down below on the comment box, and I will read it out for you. And we look forward to your active participation. So now, to kick off today's forum, please welcome our first presenter of the day. Dr. Darcy Dominic Muhato from Division of International and Area Studies at Pugyang National University, who will be speaking on the impact of digitalization on African agri-food, global value chains governance, and upgrading. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me very well? Okay. As they said, my name is Dr. Darcy Dominic Moeto. It's really a great honor and privilege to be here. If I may take you to my real background, I graduated recently in the Division of International Area Studies at Pugyang National University. And fortunately, I'm still there working on this project that I'm going to present to you today. My specialization is regional integration, the economy of the development of regional, as you all know that nowadays the world is becoming global and one. This is the content of my research. If you may look at it, I'm going to start introducing Africa. Africa, according to several academics, and is derived from the Greek name and Roman, meaning that it's a bright and warm area. But in addition to its rich natural resources, Africa has vast and area and then unfortunately still relies on food import and aid from foreign countries. The research is divided into the introduction, literature review, theoretical background, and methodology, and then so forth. Let's go to the part of the introduction. If you look at the figure right there, globally, the agri-food industry is the largest subsector of manufacturing industry, representing 10 to 30% of this sector. And then, if you look at the prospect, the population of Africa is going to be around 10 billion, 250. Then the question that arises is, how do we feed 10 billion people without using more land with lowering emission? Because according to research, the industry, like the whole world, is going to have a total of 8 trillion output, meaning that it's going to be 8.4 larger than iron and steel industry, which represents 0.8 trillion, larger than the IT industry, and bigger than the automobile industry. Then we'll need like 46%. We'll need 46% of like more food to feed all those people. And then like we need to prevent agriculture from expanding. That means by preserving the forest area, which is in Africa 2 times the size of India. Then what do you mean by digitalization? If I'm talking about digitalization, digitalization refers to the integration of digital technology advances into existing systems. Some of scholars describe it as one of the world's most significant developments at the moment. Many of the suggested benefits of digitalization are around higher efficiency through accurate mechanization, automation, and better decision making. And then let's talk about the concept of agriculture and global value chain. Agriculture global value chain it's a chain of production from the producer to the end consumer. And then you can see that at each step, it has stakeholders in it: the production, processing, distribution, and then retail. As it is defined as a whole range of operations necessary for design through distribution to end consumer and final disposal after use via the many phases of manufacturing and delivery. The analogy of the chain is because of connection between manufacturing steps, which creates interconnected system leading to the finished product and the end consumer. When you say governance, what do you mean by governance and upgrading the global value chains? Here you look at 2 analyses: the concept of examining the GVC in the global economy. There is top-down, which focuses on the main lead firm from priority details with governance GVC. And then there is bottom-up focus. It focuses on countries, regions, supplier upgrading. And the purpose of this research, this study attempts to clarify the possible impacts of digitalization on African agri-food global value chain, governance, as well as the impact on the upgrading African agri-firms. And also this research aims to identify the key challenges faced by farmers as they navigate the digital transformation process. It also seeks to understand how these challenges can be addressed to the latest technology and tools. Why did we come with this research? What was missing? The research gap, when you look at the African global value chain, much has been written about it. But those research, they tend to be categorized into main groups. Some of them focuses on only one commodity in the value chain, analyze it at a national or regional level. The second sort of research focuses on improving the agriculture output. But however, uncertainty persists that as to whether digital technology have an influence on African agri-food global value chain governance and agri-farm performance. There has not been much study that examine the link between digitalization, African agri-food global value chain governance, and the upgrading of African agri-firms, to the best of my knowledge. The following are the research questions. How have digital technology transformed governance structure of agri-food GVC in Africa. Like, have technology impacted the role of middlemen in Africa food global value chain? And the last one, has technology, digital technology adoption in Africa agri-food enable agri-farm upgrading? These are the research objectives. I'm going to go through them. Let's look at the literature review of this. In these projects, those are the main four sections of this research. The concept of digitalization, agriculture in Africa, global value chain governance, and then the concept of upgrading. These are some of the definitions. I'm not going to go through them. You can look at let's talk about agriculture in Africa, which is the main concept of the foundation of this project, this research. As you can see on the African continent, the agriculture is one of the largest sectors of the economy in many nations throughout Africa. Especially in sub-Saharan Africa, agriculture represents 14% of the overall GDP, and the industry employs a large share of continent people. The proportion scale of farming as well as employed people added value and production varies significantly from areas to region. When I'm talking about regions, I'm referring to regional economic bloc. In Africa, we have about 5 of them. And then landlocked nations like Chad with lower wages can significantly surpass the regional norm. For relatively large section sometimes it goes over 50% of the GDP. And the percentage, the population employing substances and everything. The governance, GVC, like the global value chain governance. These are the type of governance that are in place. Some of them are used by countries, regions, and some of them are omitted. If you look at the graph, there are 5. They have the market one. The market one, which focuses on the consumer and suppliers. And then there is the modular one. The key point is the supplier, and there is the reed firm, and then the component and material suppliers. Relational one focuses on the relation between the supplier, and it goes both ways. But for the modular one, they meet like in the middle, if you look at it. And then there's captive, where the lead firm has everything. The lead firm is the main decision maker. And a small definition to governance, it refers to the decision-making processes through product design players and tactics and support management. And okay, these are the definition, what I was talking about, the kind of governance that are in places. The concept of upgrading. What do you mean by upgrading? Upgrading, there is four stages of the global value chain upgrading. There is a process upgrading, which refers to the improved efficiency products, the shift towards more advanced items with greater unit value, and then functional upgrading, and then the intersectional upgrading. The theoretical background. This research is mainly based on the many theories regarding governance, digitalization, and global value chain. We have a number of theories, which is, the first one is the GVC governance, the theory and transaction cost theory, the resource dependency theory, the resource-based use theories, and the dynamic capability theories, social exchange theories. All these theories are the backbone of this research, because each and everyone has a role that plays in the success of this research. Next point, I'm going to talk what kind of methodology are we planning to use? This is the conceptual model. If we look at the main the main dependent variables, the digital tools of adoption. I'm talking about internet, drones, mobile phones. And then each one leads to like agri-farm upgrading. That's the aim, that's where we're heading. And then what kind of governance is in between? What kind of governance? Because the governance that is there in any country, it affects their capability and the ability of farmers and suppliers, effect and efficiency. Came about 9 hypotheses to test the research. And the data collection is going to be through questionnaire analysis, and data is going to be analyzed by SPSS software and that stuff. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Yes, thank you very much for the insightful presentation, not only in Africa, but it looks like this presentation is very valuable in all countries as well. Thank you for touching on the possible impacts and the challenges on the digitalization on Africa agri-food and global value chains and governance, and also the upgrading on agri-firms. Thank you once again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our second presenter, Juana Emmy Emanuela Joanna from Media and Communication at Hanyang University, who'll be speaking on the effects of the characteristics of Nigerian Instagram stores. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Hello, my name is Wanemi Emanuela Jonah, and I am a master's student of media communication at Hanyang University, Seoul, and my focus is on advertising and public relations. My research topic is titled The Effect of the Characteristics of Nigerian Instagram Stores on Consumer Purchase Decisions. I will start by saying that Instagram store is a form of social commerce. Buying and selling things on Instagram has recently become a trend in Nigeria, and this is as a result of the effectiveness of Instagram as well. You can sell items, and you can buy and sell items and still use it as a social networking site. The purpose of the study was to explore the factors that influence Nigerian users' purchase decisions, and the target of this research were Nigerians. In order to investigate the subject, an online survey on Naver was conducted, and there were a total of 313 respondents, with 78 responses being invalidated as a result of respondent unfamiliarity with the subject. Here is what an Instagram store looks like. On the left, the first photo is the Instagram store of the fashion page Zara, and on the right is what a typical Nigerian Instagram store looks like. On the first page, you can see that it's well designed. You can sort and filter through items, and its accessibility features are great. While on the right side, you can see that an Instagram store, typically in Nigeria, is basically a regular Instagram account where sellers upload the photos and put the details of the items in form of captions. You can see here you write the details of the items and how much it costs. You have to type them out in comments. And usually when people want to buy something from an Instagram store in Nigeria, you usually have to send a direct message or leave a comment to facilitate the process of purchasing it. The dependent variable in this study is consumer purchase intention, and it has been defined as consumers' attitudes towards a specific purchasing behavior and the consumer's degree of willingness to pay. Previous research on consumer purchase intention among Nigerians have investigated the effect on factors such as price, information, persuasion, and credibility. And most of the research suggests that information is one of the most vital factors that consumers consider when deciding to purchase an item. For the purpose of the study, a preliminary investigation was conducted to find out the factors that affect Nigerian consumers' purchase intention, and the results of that will be discussed in the next two slides. The study was supported by the technology acceptance model by Davis and Venkatesh, and here we can see that external variables affect a user's perceived usefulness of a technology system, as well as their perceived ease of use regarding the technology system, which ultimately affects users' decision to use a technology system. Here, Instagram is a form of an information system, so that's why it was decided to use technology acceptance model in this study to see how these factors affect users' decision to accept the technology system or reject the system. The results of the preliminary investigation included informativeness, credibility, professionalism, and interactivity. 30 respondents responded that they find that informativeness, credibility, professionalism, and interactivity were very important when they decide to purchase items on Instagram, and also that perceived risk was a factor that they considered very important. So these factors, informativeness, credibility, professionalism, and interactivity, were adopted as the independent variables, while perceived risk was adopted as the mediating variable, in addition to Davis and Venkatesh's perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use in the original technology acceptance model. Usually on Instagram stores in Nigeria, you usually have to pay for the items online. And since card payments are fairly new in Nigeria because consumers prefer to use cash, and financial technology is still getting accepted by users presently, so users usually prefer to use cash, and they associate the perceived risk they associate Instagram stores with the perceived risk that is associated with using Instagram stores. Even though many users use online and card payments in Nigeria, cash is still the most preferred, and research shows that many Nigerians associate online payments with financial risk. So one of the hypotheses in this study was that the risk associated with using Instagram stores will reduce users' purchase intentions on Instagram stores. The results of the study was analyzed with SPSS statistics, and here we can see that the perceived risk is defined as the apprehension of online shopping because of the skepticism related to product quality, and informativeness here is defined as the quality informativeness here as it relates to Instagram stores explains that excellent quality information leads to better judgment and consumer satisfaction. And perceived credibility associated with using Instagram stores includes product ratings and truthfulness. So usually when a consumer analyzes Instagram stores, they consider the product rating and truthfulness. So if a user wants to buy an item on Instagram, usually they go to the comments to see previous consumers, what they think about using Instagram stores, the products they receive, and that's how they leave their reviews. And users usually make their purchase decision based on what they see in the comments. Perceived professionalism is how professional the Instagram stores operated, their method of communication, how do they speak to consumers when they receive DMs, or how do they respond in the comments, and how professional are they in their general operations. The results of the survey conducted was analyzed with SPSS statistics, and 78 were invalid because they were unfamiliar with Instagram stores, and the respondents mostly consisted of young people with a range of 24 to 35 years old. The results showed which were the survey was analyzed, and it showed that perceived informativeness has an effect on perceived usefulness, and credibility has an effect on perceived usefulness, professionalism, and interactivity as well. and it showed that credibility and interactivity does have an effect on perceived ease of use. However, informativeness and professionalism doesn't. And it also showed that interactivity and credibility were very high in consumer purchase intentions. That means that users consider interactivity and informativeness to be very important, and it does actually influence the decision to purchase an item on Instagram. However, the mediating variable of perceived risk could not be adopted because it showed that informativeness, credibility, professionalism, and interactivity does not affect users, consumers' purchase intentions through perceived risk. That means that perceived risk does not mediate the relationship between these independent variables, so it could not be adopted in this study. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that informative presentation. With the growing popularity of social shopping in Nigeria, the social commerce industry definitely looks to flourish, and we sincerely look forward to it as well. Thank you once again. And now for our next presenter, we have Patience Maharo from Food Sciences and Human Nutrition at Jeonbuk National University. He'll be speaking on the effect of gochujang on inflammation in DSS-induced colitis model in rats. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mahoro Patience. I'm from Burundi in East Africa, and I'm delighted to be here for presenting one of my research study, which was focused on gochujang. For now, I'm doing my PhD degree at Jeonbuk National University as coursework, but as well working as a research trainee in the National Food Cluster, Korean National Food Cluster, Food Police in Iksan. So regarding this study, gochujang can be defined as a Korean traditional food, and it's made from meju, a powder, a rice flour, red pepper, and a large amount of salt. Gochujang has been consumed since the Joseon dynasty, and in 2015, it has been reported as the most consumed, the second most consumed seasoning after kanjang. Gochujang has been described for its different therapeutic effects, such as anti-canceric effect, the anti-diabetes effect, anti-obesity effect, as well as antioxidant. That goes in that area of anti-cancer effect. However, as I said, gochujang has a large amount of salt, and a small amount of salt is essential for the normal functioning of our human body. However, a large or too much salt will induce different diseases such as osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, obesity, renal kidney disease, and the important of our study, which was intestinal disease. Among the different intestinal diseases that we evaluated, we focused on the inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, which is a chronic inflammation of the colon, and divided in two main forms, which are the Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. As you can see on the left side, the Crohn's disease can be located at any part of the gastrointestinal tract, from the mouth, the esophagus, going until to the anus. However, the ulcerative colitis is mostly focused in the colon, in the large intestine. So we choose to focus on this ulcerative colitis because it's more prevalent compared to the Crohn's disease, and it has a higher risk of inducing cancer in the colon. So the treatment of, or the management of this disease, because it's chronic disease, there is no treatment, but the drug can help in alleviating the symptoms, as well as surgery, which means like we will remove some parts of the colon, and most importantly, the nutrition therapy. Here in Korea, this IBD, or inflammatory bowel disease, is most importantly seen, or mostly affecting young people, like people who have less than 30 years old. And the reasons are not clear, but one of the reasons is that this disease is mostly prevalent in urbanized regions. And as you know, Korea has experienced a rapid urbanization. And also, the dietary and lifestyle factors are associated with this disease. So for some people coming from not highly urbanized regions, they can feel relieved because this disease is not very prevalent. But Korean young people mostly are in the urbanized cities, maybe for the work or for universities. They don't have time to cook, so they go in restaurants, and they will not have enough fresh food or fruits or vegetables consumption that will induce this kind of inflammatory disease. So in our study, we induced this disease in healthy rats for assessing the pathogenesis of this disease, and we induced it through the DSS, or dextran sulfate sodium, which is a compound that is soluble in drinking water of the animals, and will induce then the disruption of the epithelium, colon epithelium, and then cause an acute colitis. So as the objective of our study, we already knew that some Korean food, such as doenjang or kimchi, they have a protective effect against the colitis. Then we were wondering if gochujang also could have that protective effect, even though it has a large amount of salt. So for checking that, we induced the colitis using the DSS in different groups. The groups were divided into 5. The normal group didn't have any treatment, and the remaining groups, they were all induced with colitis and then treated with different compounds. First, the salt group was treated with salt. The mesalamine, or positive control group, this mesalamine is used for treating the inflammatory bowel disease, and then the gochujang for comparing those, the effect induced. We checked the colitis parameters such as the body weight, the pro-inflammatory genes by checking by PCR, Western blot for checking the expression of proteins, and we also checked the gut microbiota using NGS, next generation sequencing analysis. It's for assessing the community of microorganisms who are residing in the colon. The body weight, as you can see, for this results part, I will try to go fast. As you can see, the normal group compared to the gochujang, they had gained enough, they had gained weight. However, the DSS group and the salt group, they didn't gain weight, and also at the final body weight, there was a significant difference. For the colon features, such as the length of the colon, on the top you can see that the normal group had a longest colon. However, for the DSS group and the salt group had the shortest colon length, showing that the salt group really affected the colon of the animals. However, the gochujang group was not significantly affected compared to the DSS and SALT group. Histomorphologically, here I will try to be fast because the pictures are not really clear, but there was a presence of inflammatory cells in the DSS group as well as in the SALT group, but not present in the gochujang group. Also, here the genes expression was checked by PCR, and as you can see, we checked these three genes, which are TNF alpha, IL-6, and IL-1 beta, and at this side, you can see that gochujang significantly reduced the expression of this inflammatory, showing that gochujang really improved this effect. Expression of the proteins, such as PP65, INOS, and COX-2, here as well, gochujang was significantly reduced the expression of these proteins. At the side of gut microbiota, regarding the microorganism residing in the colon, especially in the SALT group, really affected the diversity of microorganisms residing in the colon. At the phylum and order level, there was no significant difference. But here what we can be interested is that in the gochujang group, this species, Akemasia municiphala, is normally related to the inflammation, and we can see that it was significantly reduced in the gochujang group. The potential mechanism is that when DSS is given to the rats for inducing the microbiota dysbiosis and the inflammation, here we can see that on the receptors there was transcription, and which will induce the excessive pro-inflammatory mediators, and we induce the acute colitis. Gochujang, when was
We're running
given
out of time. Can you please speed up your presentation? Thank you.
Yes. So here, the gochujang inhibited the expression of these and improved the colitis. In conclusion, we can see that gochujang improved the colitis parameters, the inflammatory cytokines, and the gut microbiota, and inhibited the NF-kappa B signaling pathway. And then you can conclude that gochujang has a protective effect against colitis. So these are the future prospects, which will finish with the clinical trials for checking that effect of gochujang in humans. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. Gochujang is definitely a backbone for all Korean cooking, and having so much fun and healthy benefits to it, we might as well dig into some more gochujang from later on. Thank you very much. And last but not least, our last presentation for session 1. Please give a warm welcome to Josephine Wambui Ngala from the International Development and Cooperation at Ewha Women's University, giving us a presentation on a study of the commoditization of Maasai symbolism and its impact on the construction of cultural identities of periphery indigenous groups in Kenya. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Good morning. I'm Miss Josephine, and I'll be making a presentation on my thesis entitled The Authentic Kenyan. It's a study on the commoditization of Maasai symbolism and its impact on the construction of cultural identities of the periphery indigenous groups in Kenya. I'll first take you through that's brief introduction with a brief background, might talk about my research problem, research questions, go through my literature review, have a brief discussion of methodology, talk about my findings, and finally conclude. Now, the Maasai community is an Nilotic minority ethnic group in Kenya. They're mainly found in lands that are usually characterized by semi-arid vegetation and occupied by wild animals where wildlife tourism is popularly practiced. They practice pastoralism and are well known for their colorful traditional attire, mainly consisting of the color red. Additionally, their customary regalia is famous for its vibrantly embellished beadwork worn around their heads, necks, waists, and wrists. For a long time, the focus has been on how the commodification of the Maasai culture has impacted the Kenyan economy or how it directly influences the Maasai community's financial development. Majority of these studies concluded that Kenya was benefiting immensely from profiteering off of the Maasai culture, while the Maasai themselves barely profited and still remain among the poorest marginal communities in the country. This is irrespective of being an integral part of foreign exchange generation through cultural tourism. However, this study brings to focus how much influence the commodification of Maasai symbolism has and continues to have on other indigenous cultures other than the Maasai people. The research supposes that the state has managed to impose on its citizens a constructed and standardized national identity represented by the Maasai image. We can take a look at the research problem. Now, this study believes that there lies a problem in the normalization of the Maasai identity through commodification as it promotes cultural piracy. During my research, I came across a theorist by the name Nasieku Taraiya who called it neo-ethnic plagiarism. Since the other ethnic groups choosing to use Maasai cultural items had no claim to being Maasai. Additionally, this study believes that embracing a collective identity for the purpose of securing economic growth may pose a threat to the sustainability of other ethnic identities and practices. This is because economic development, a globalization concept, often results in the loss of cultural diversity. Now, my research seeks to answer the question, does the production and reproduction of the Maasai identity through commodification undermine the sustainability of identities and cultural practices of other Kenyan ethnic groups? Hence, the main objective of this study was to explore the impact of the commodification of the Maasai physical representations on the surrounding ethnic groups' cultural identities. Now, my literature review, my theoretical framework was basically formed on commodification and social constructivism, and we're going to take a look at how that intersects in the use of Maasai imagery. The normalization of commodification has been argued to have more negative connotations attached to it than positive ones. The main positive one tends to be economic development or financial growth. Nonetheless, according to researchers, commoditizing indigenous products of culture often isolates rather than protects the culture itself. They argue that the alienation of culture ever so often leads to the loss of authenticity and to the creation of different perceptions of traditional history. In accordance with that very idea, the dependency theory argues that there is a deep relationship between capitalism and cultural deterioration. They also argue that the quality of products exploited through capitalistic ventures like mass production is immensely cheapened. Furthermore, a society that concentrates on exchange value rather than the use value poses a threat to the social order by creating a shallow society. Following these disadvantages, the study believes that people should seek to fight against the total adoption of superficial views of cultural products so as to avoid the deterioration of culture, particularly the erosion of meanings assigned to the original states of cultural products. This theory, social constructivism, suggests that the social world is developed by actors consisting of the influential elite groups like governments, judiciaries, and so on and so forth, who continually produce standardized state characteristics that mold cross-continental relations through their activities and exchanges. The institutionalization of these norms is well interpreted by Wendt's principle of corporate agency in the theory of social constructivism. According to Wendt, corporate agency involves the institutionalization of standards or customs that are developed from collective ideas of internal structures, I beg your pardon, which he dubs national interests. Wendt continues to explain that these same structures have the authority to impose collective action with regard to the establishment of principles. Now, the relationship between constructivism and commoditization in this research. This research applies constructivism to the commoditized Maasai culture with the idea that commodification of the Maasai culture's image aligns with the national interest of economic development through cultural tourism. Kenya's tourism sector grew by 5.6%, which contributed to the creation of about 1.1 million jobs and the generation of about $7 billion US. This development was even faster than today's global average of about 4.4%. Seeing that the tourism contributes a large portion of the country's GDP, Kenya's administration has intentionally used the Maasai image as a representation of Kenyan people in order to attract tourists who would like to obtain a somewhat extraordinary experience from their travels. Moreover, the study believes that the dissemination of the Maasai image supports the existence of an agreed-upon standard set by the Kenya Ministry of Tourism and its agencies, like the Kenya Tourism Board, as the appropriate representation of the Kenyan cultural identity. This idea is not only imposed on the international community, but also on the locals. For instance, the Kenya Tourism Board has been bragging over Kenya's cultural diversity of 42 ethnic different groups with equally different traditions and culture, but move on to construct the tourists' both local and international expectations around the Maasai community and their culture. Magical Kenya, their website, which was established in 2014, also cites the country's cultural diversity, but maintains the Maasai image as the representation of culture. From this, one can deduce that there is clearly a gap between the image used by the Kenyan government and its promises of cultural multiplicity. Another illustration would be the creation of the Maasai market, which is promoted by the Nairobi County government. In the market, Maasai cultural ornaments, regalia, and very few curios belonging to different tribes are sold. A significant share of the artists who create Maasai ornaments sold at the market do not belong to the tribe. According to a research carried out by Cultural Survival, only 10 to 15 of about 400 of the vendors at the market are actually Maasai. This therefore brings in the element of cultural piracy or neo-ethnic plagiarism, and again, the question of authenticity. For my methodology, I chose a qualitative design because it's suited to take on studies focused on understanding human beings, experience, and reflections about certain issues. I used a focus group discussion to obtain primary data from 9 respondents, and the primary research was carried out online using Zoom teleconferencing platform. Now, what we found out was that there is a lack of assigned value to surrounded indigenous identities. So, there is little value given to fashion elements of ethnic representations of Kenyan cultures other than the Maasai's. This issue is seen to occur in 2 dimensions, that is, at the individual and institutional level. At the individual level, the non-Maasai participants of this research revealed that they possessed negative perceptions about their own cultures, since the majority viewed the Maasai identity as more attractive compared to their own. The institutional dimension was represented by the education system, the tourism industry, and the media industry, all which have substantial influence from state policies. It was discovered that the education system did not include enough programs that expose students to ethnic identities, leaving them at a disadvantage of not gaining sufficient knowledge.
Please speed up your presentation, please.
All right, about knowledge and about the cultural identities, as well as denying them chances to promote and appreciate cultural diversity. Another thing was the emergence of a popular culture. This research discovered that Maasai symbolism is viewed as cool and fashion-forward. Maasai symbolism was following the strong influences of the tourism sector and the media. It was discovered that non-Maasai Kenyans have proudly assimilated the Maasai image as a proper illustration of the nation's cultural identity. the unsustainability of periphery ethnic identities. The saturation of the Maasai image, supported by commoditization and cultural communication, has been discovered to be a threat to the existence of other cultural physical representations, particularly fashion-wise. Now, in order to curb the many negative effects, this study recommends a strong focus on Sustainable Development Goal 11.4, which states strengthening efforts to protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage. This goal encourages governments to come up with plans and policies that protect cultural heritage and ensure cultural equality and equity is observed. I believe through the proper education and re-strategizing the dissemination of cultural imagery by ensuring ethnic inclusivity should protect the cultural identities of periphery ethnic groups in Kenya, including the Maasai people. As I conclude, kindly keep this in mind. Maasais are Kenyans, but not all Kenyans are Maasai. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for that insightful speech. A big round of applause, please. For our next proceeding, can you please take a seat on the stage for the panel discussion? Thank you all for the insightful research achievements, and we will now proceed with the panel discussion followed by a Q&A session. So I would like to invite our presenters up to the stage, and please bring your mic with you, yes, to the stage. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have questions on the floor, please raise your hands and we will hand over the mic to you. And for our viewers online, please submit your comments or questions down below on the comment box and I will read it out for you. And we look forward to your active participation. Now, first, we would like to hear our comments or questions from our advisors. Professor Kim Geri and Professor Kim Iju, would you like to ask any questions or comments for our presenters, please? We need another mic, please.
I would like to thank the four speakers for their wonderful presentation. Because of the time limit, I would be very brief, and I would like to also give opportunities to ask questions to other people. I really enjoyed all the four presentations and very interesting and intriguing, especially since I study humanities. The fourth presentation was especially interesting.
About the national identity of Kenya. So you use the constructivism approach for your study. So the image or symbolism of Maasai has become the national cultural identity, and you talked about the issues related to that. So the national identity has been set from top-down approach. What about the opinion of the other marginal ethnic groups? They are not Maasai, but sometimes they are represented as Maasai, or sometimes they have to accept their identity as Maasai. I would like to ask you whether you approached this issue from the perspective of non-Maasai people. Of course, the commoditization of the Maasai symbol was really helpful for the national economic development. I'd like to ask why some of the non-Maasai people agree with the standardized national image utilizing the Maasai symbolism.
I was still listening to the translation. The question is why the Maasai image has been taken by the non-Maasai people. I think it's because due to the deterioration of the fact that they have no clue of what their own identity is, because from pre-colonial era and colonial, and then back to the post-colonial, a lot has been lost through history. And so they thought it was an easier way out because they don't know what their culture is, but the government continuously presents this image out. So they thought, oh, if this is what is acceptable, so therefore I accept it. What I also discovered through my research is that a lot of the Kenyans, basically all my respondents, except the Maasai person, thought that Maasai culture belonged to them. It's Kenyan, so we have the right to use it, which is it's very problematic. But the Maasai respondent was actually in shock because she was like, you know, I don't understand why you don't see that you are appropriating my culture. But the rest of the respondents thought that the other people outside of Kenya should not use the image, but they had a right to do so. So that is why the Maasai image, I thought, was adopted. Also because it's something that was carried on from colonial to post-colonial era. So they kind of were born into it. And now they don't know what their own image looks like. So yeah, that's the reason.
Yes, thank you very much. Now we would like to hear from Professor Kim Iju.
네.
Thank you very much. I've learned a lot today. Thank you. Sorry. Well, you come from a lot of different academic disciplines. So how much I have understood for each of your presentation, how much I should know for each of our presentation. But let me ask you a question to Dr. Darcy Dominic Muhito. I have a question for you.
Model that you suggested as a PG, the GVC governance model. And is it 이거 만일 이 패턴이
If this pattern is to be applied in Korea or any other country, can we find this pattern in other countries, or is this pattern applied only to Africa? And how much IT infrastructure do you have to have for this pattern to be realized? This model was created in 2004. So did you have any questions about this? Any findings here?
If I'm not mistaken, talking about the plan of implementation of global governance, or
yeah, up to the pattern?
on which page, please?
Page 26.
You mean the conceptual model?
Yes. I guess it should be a little the upgrading, or did you consider about the situation?
This one, yes. Yes, this was based actually on.
Not this page.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Global value chains governance.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. This type of governance, I chose this model because I looked at the model of governance that are present in African countries. And then for now, like in most countries in Africa, they focus on the market model, while like everything is regulated through price. And the other question is, if this model was to be adopted in Korea, right?
More, 2021, the African country, 55 countries has already adopted by SNS for the governance and marketing in every area.
Yes, but I have to mention here that in Africa, even though there has been the adoption of technology, it's not that common. The awareness is still very low, the awareness of technologies and everything. Like, even though people tend to use technology, mobile phone, SNS, everything, but the adoption of those technology, what do they use them for? This model will work because now, like, the awareness is very low, and then people tend to use the phone to call and send messages via WhatsApp and everything. Not really using them, like using some tools that are upgraded for the development of their culture and their economy skills.
Okay. Yes.
Would you have any more questions?
Actually, I have so many questions, but finally, the final about the Kenyan thing. We usually says that the identity is something that we react our behavior or every custom or everything. But in this explanation, you said the imagery can be their identity or not, is basically. But is it the government symbolize as the marketing or the tourism?
I said the physical representations.
Right.
By that I mean the regalia, what we wear,
Right.
what we look like. See, a lot of the times when the Ministry of Tourism is marketing culture and our heritage, they use the Maasai image as the representation of what our culture is. However, they are a minority group. So it is the image, not necessarily the practices of the group, but just the image itself, like the physical representations only.
Right. But actually 우리는 이제 사실 마사이
Maybe for example, Koreans do not really know the representative regalia of Maasai. So we cannot distinguish. Maybe the Maasai people are more popular than other ethnic groups. That's why the government decided to use the Maasai image to represent their national identity. I think your research topic is quite interesting.
Just received a question online, and this goes to Patience Maharo. You mentioned that there was many benefits in gochujang, right? Then what element prevents inflammation in gochujang, do you think?
There are many compounds present in gochujang.
Yes.
So
Any benefits that
yeah,
prevents
that for the prevention of the inflammation is more. Oh, sorry, I was talking to. So for the prevention of inflammation, one of the most important is isoflavones and phenolic compounds that are present in the gochujang. These are the most important ones, but also gochujang, because it's fermented food, it takes a long time for fermenting, and there is a large amount of probiotics that will improve the microbiota, the community residing in the colon. So these are the 3 points: phenolics present in the gochujang, isoflavones, and probiotics.
Thank you very much for that well said answer. Thank you once again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes session 1. Please give a big round of applause to all of our presenters for their excellent presentation. Thank you once again. And we will now take a 10-minute coffee break to cool things off a bit. Coffee and tea is prepared outside of the lobby, so please do enjoy. And due to the COVID-19 guidelines, we ask you to drink your beverages at a place where the plastic barriers are placed. So please keep that in mind. And we'll see you back at 10:50 a.m. for session 2. Thank you.
13억 명 중 30세 이하가 차지하는 비중 70%. 연평균 5.5%의 꾸준한 경제 성장을 달성하고 있는 무한한 잠재력의 땅, 젊은 대륙 아프리카. 아프리카는 4차 산업혁명 시대 리프로깅을 주도할 기술 혁신의 상징입니다. 아프리카와의 전문적이고 미래지향적인 파트너십을 위한 상생협력의 플랫폼. 한 아프리카 재단이 아프리카와 대한민국의 공반 성장을 이끌어갑니다. 한 아프리카 재단. 외교부 산하 기관으로 출범한 한 아프리카 재단은 대한민국과 아프리카와의 관계 통해 다양하게 아프리카 문화를 이해하고 체험할 수 있는 기회의 장을 제공하여 문화를 바탕으로 아프리카에 대한 이해를 높이고 문화산업의 새로운 성장 기회를 창출해 나아가고 있습니다. 나아가 아프리카 대륙 현지통신원 네트워크를 구축하여 우리 국민들이 아프리카 소식을 보다 쉽고 신속하게 접할 수 있는 기반을 마련하고 현지 연구기관들과 국내 연구기관들 간의 공동 연구를 촉진하여 효율적인 정책 연구 수립에 기여하고 있습니다. 이러한 다양한 활동들을 통해 한 아프리카 재단은 대한민국과 아프리카를 잇는 보다 구체적이고 균형 잡힌 새로운 상생 협력의 플랫폼을 설계해 나아가고 있습니다. 아프리카와의 전문적이고 미래지향적인 파트너십을 위한 상생 협력의 플랫폼 한 아프리카 재단. 우리 국민들이 아프리카를 보다 쉽게 접하고 다양하게 이해하며 아프리카와 함께 새로운 성장 기회를 창출해낼 수 있도록 한 아프리카 재단이 함께하겠습니다.
Welcome back, everyone. We will now proceed with session 2 of the workshop with African candidates to master and doctoral degrees in Korea. Now, for our viewers online, we would love to hear from you. Please submit your comments or your questions down below on the comment box, and your participation means greatly. Now, with that being said, please welcome our first presenter of session 2. Wama Kasanga Dahauda from Computer Science at Hanyang University, who'll be speaking on Neural Architecture Search, Net-Based Feature Extraction from Modular Neural Network for Raw Minerals Copper Cobalt Image Classification. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Hello everyone. My name is Mwamba Kasongo Dauda. I am a PhD student in the Department of Computer Science in Seoul campus. So today I will be presenting about my research. First of all, I want to start with my previous research, and then I will be talking about my current research. And I will start by presenting a little bit, a short presentation about my lab. I mean, I'm doing some research in the lab of MNI lab. We're doing research about Internet of Things and also mobile embedded system. And also we are doing research about AI. We can use machine learning model for building many applications. And then after that, so this, I want to first present my previous papers, and then I'm going to also talk about my current research. So this was my first paper I published. It was about DTN. And as we know, many people are using internet so they can send a message from a node 1 to a node B. And in normal internet, you have a problem of delay. That means when you send a message, if there's no connection, message will not arrive to destination, and then it will fail. But in this technology, it's a new technology. It's about space internet. The main purpose of this research is, even though we have no connection, but when you send a message to destination, the matter of time can take 1 month, 2 months, but at the final, you're going to reach the destination. So this was my first paper. And this was also it was a conference paper. We found out that there are many applications using machine and deep learning, and also there are many data sets people are using. But when we talk about Swahili data sets or English data sets, we don't have a lot. So we decided to build an application which can classify words. That means the input will be a word, and output, if it's English word, Swahili, or English. Then we came, this idea, we built a data set from scratch. And data set was like, we have the noun in English, Swahili, and Korean as well. So the result was really interesting. We got a good result. So it was also a good paper. And this also is my recent publication. It was published by Autopilot Access. This, we tried to compare, when you have data set can contain string text and numerical text, but usually people use the one-hot encoding to encode data. That means from text to a numerical. But for my research, I found a way how I can use NLP-based technique so that I can map all the words in a number. Of course, I'm using a step such as the tokenization, where I can map all the features, and then after I can use machine learning for classification. Also, the result was really interesting, and it was also one of my good papers. So then, after that, this is my current research. Why I choose this research? Because as a researcher, I've learned a lot, and there are many applications which have been used to classify images, such as cassava leaf disease classification, and some people are using medical image to classify image. Even they're using brain image to classify if a person can have this or not. And there are a lot of data sets people are using, and the main network people already used, it's a CNN. CNN is a convolutional neural network, which is very powerful. This is also used in computer vision. So here I present a little bit a main concept about convolutional network. That means the input is an image. Let's say we have a cat or a dog, and the input image, we go through the layer. We have the convolution layer, the pooling, and the fully connected layer, and the output will be a class of that image. That means it could be a cat, a dog, or a tiger. But the problem is many researchers have been using many data sets to classify different types of images, but they didn't use data set which contain copper and cobalt. That was my my key point of my research, because even internet, they don't have a data set which contains copper image and cobalt. The first time I showed people these images, they didn't know what is this stuff. They just say, oh, what is this? But this is the copper and cobalt. And it has been used a lot for many purposes in our daily life. So this is where we can try to explain what is copper and cobalt. As we can see, this is the raw mineral of copper. And then this is the raw mineral, so they use this mineral to build many things, like coins, in electricity, even in cars. But the problem is many people don't know about the raw mineral, exactly, the copper. So in my country, from DRC Congo, as you can see, the DRC has the almost highest grade copper deposit in the world. So everywhere we go, even in my city, you can find copper and cobalt. Then my idea is like how I can try to help my people or to build a technology which can classify easily raw minerals. And also beside the copper, we have also the cobalt. As we know, cobalt has many side effects, especially on human body. When we are close to the copper or cobalt, it can affect your body. So I remember one day in my country, there were some people, some women, when they give birth, the baby was born with malformation. Maybe it could be because of the radiation of some minerals. Then my idea is how I can use deep technology to classify those minerals and then can help people to recognize this is copper or cobalt so they can be far from it. Then my clinical research, as I said at the beginning, it's about computer vision and deep learning. And the specific part in this part is the feature extraction. Because when you have an image, we have to extract some features. And the thing is, how we see the image, computer sees the image as a matrix. It means the image should be split into small elements, which we call pixel, and then extract those images, extract those features. So then my also current research is I want to propose to the community a new, or I cannot say new, but it has been used a long time ago, but I want to propose to the community what we call MNN. It's a modular neural network. That means in this modular neural network, I can put together many many deep learning models for one purpose. And the good thing with this modular neural network is like every module we have is on roles. As I can see here, as I said, the first module will be a denoising autoencoder. The second module will be a transfer learning model. I'm going to use the NASNet. And the third module will be a simple classifier. So this will be very useful to build image recognition based on copper and cobalt images. So I'm going to just explain a little bit about the first module, which is very important. In the beginning, as I said, usually when you want to build a deep learning model, the first important thing is the input images. Here you can see the input images will be a noise images. That means it's not good quality. So we need to put these images into a neural network. Here I'm going to use the denoising autoencoder. And then after that, I will have the noise images. If you can see the input images and the output images is different. The output image is very clean. So that means it's a really good image you can use for other purpose. And then this is the main part of my research because NASNet has been used a lot, especially in computer vision. As you can see, it's a narrow architecture search because when you want to build a deep learning model, there are many requirements such as power consumption, memory. By using NASNet, it allows us to build deep learning model quickly and with low resource. And the last module, it's a modular, it's a classifier. So here, as I say, after the second module, we're going to extract the file, then can use the file as a training data for the last module, and then the output will be classified images. And finally, this is the workflow of our proposal neural network. We have two modules, 1, 2, and 3. And then the benefit of a neural network is very important, like simplicity, combination of technique, scalability, efficiency. So using this kind of technology, we're going to build a powerful deep learning model which can classify image of copper or cobalt. Thank you for listening, and this is my presentation.
Yes, thank you for the impressive presentation. Explain the benefits of modular neural network and what it has to offer. Thank you so much. And next, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Kurunziza, Food Engineering at Pugyong National University, speaking on integrated engineering approaches to create biorenewable-based functional materials from food waste and byproducts. Please welcome him up to the stage.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning. My name is David Nkurunziza. I'm a PhD student at Pugyong National University, majoring in food engineering. A little bit about myself. I come from Rwanda, a small country in East Africa, and landlocked. So when I was growing up, it didn't take me a long time to notice the shortage of food at home. Despite the abundant production of food during the harvesting period. And during the harvesting period, I usually thought, well, this food will last us for a long time. But it wasn't the case because we didn't have facilities to preserve the food and transform it, add value to it. So the food ended up being discarded or disposed and become a waste. So over the course of my academic career, I've been very passionate about studying engineering systems that can be utilized to transform food into value-added materials or products, or even transform waste and byproducts into materials that can be useful and economical. So here I am presenting about integrated engineering approaches to create biorenewable-based functional materials from food waste and byproducts. So here is my outline, and as I talked a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in Rwanda, and I majored in food science and technology from the University of Rwanda, graduated in 2014 with a bachelor's degree. I was lucky to receive the Korean government scholarship in 2015, and I came to Korea, completed my master's at the Pugyong National University in food engineering, and I'm currently pursuing my PhD in food engineering as well. So why did I choose Korea over other countries? Korea first offered me a very prestigious scholarship, which I really appreciate. And also, as I envisaged my future as a food engineer, I knew that Korea was a leader in innovative technologies. So Korea is a country that have a lot of similarities with Rwanda. Korea doesn't have natural resources. Korea have developed based on education and implementation of innovative technologies into solving real problems in the Korean communities. And we can now see Korean products everywhere in the world. So I thought if I go to Korea, I can learn a lot of those techniques and probably transform the lives back home as well. One other thing that motivated me to come to Korea was also I got a chance to meet with Korean people back home, and my Korean professor in undergrad, Professor Choi, who is here today, thank you for coming, really was friendly to me and loving, and he made me fall in love with Korean people and Korean culture. Therefore, Korea was the best choice for me. So let's talk a little bit about agriculture in Africa. One fact, according to World Bank statistics, 2021, is that agriculture sector contributes to the gross domestic product of more than 25% in African countries in sub-Saharan Africa. These are more 25 countries in sub-Saharan Africa depend heavily on agriculture as the main economic sector. And here, comparing with Korea, Korea's agriculture's contribution in Korean economy is less than 2%. So I thought there is an interesting thing to learn here as we also look forward to modernizing our agriculture and creating new value-added materials. So agriculture in Africa faces many challenges, including problem of food waste and Also, problem of food insecurity in Africa is still rampant, especially sub-Saharan Africa, despite having heavy reliance on agriculture. So I thought that there is a clear problem where we are lacking in actually transforming this agricultural produce. And one of our economic system in the agriculture sector is based on a linear production system that is shown in this figure, in the right side figure. You will see on top the linear production system, which consists of producing and using and disposing. So this type of economic system results in accumulation of waste, and this massive waste constitute a big loss in economic value. They also constitute a big loss in the food that we could be utilizing in the future and exporting. There is another approach at the bottom, is a circular production system in which actually there is nothing disposed, but things are reprocessed and reused or transformed into other materials. And this helps integrating agriculture with other sectors such as pharmaceutical, cosmetic, biomedical packaging industries, so you can have more integrated economy. As Africa is trying to accelerate into implementing manufacturing systems and trying to develop itself, and there is a global concern of climate change. So currently, Africa have many problems that this climate change is coming to actually as a second, as an addition to other existing problems such as food insecurity, weak economic standing, and the weak manufacturing system. So with climate change, these problems have been exacerbated, but as we develop more, without considering technologies that are sustainable, we are risking also to have even a double up of the problem we have today in the future, while also not actually developing sustainably. So there are many technologies today that are in place to make sure that we develop but sustainably. So here the example is the carbon capture and utilization. CO2 emission constitute 72% of global emission in terms of gases emitted and polluting our atmosphere. So if it can be captured and utilized to produce many other products, this would translate into development of new technologies, new products design, economic growth, and job opportunities. So my research focus on utilizing green production systems or green production technologies to transform agricultural waste into valuable ingredients. And by combining extraction technologies that are green and nanotechnology and materials engineering, we develop smart materials and next generation materials that have a variety of application, like in the functional food design, nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, cosmetic and packaging industries, platform chemicals in the energy sector. So we are working into a multidisciplinary type of research system. So here is a picture, an image of food waste and the potential that they have. When you are eating a banana, you will realize that more than 40% of a banana is a peel, so you throw it away. Same with orange, you peel it out and you throw away the peels. Same when you are you are going to the coffee shop to get coffee, a small amount of espresso is recovered from a huge amount of powder, coffee powder. So all that is food waste. Same are happening in many other industries like beer processing, so what we call brewers, spent grains, and juice processing in many industries. And here in Korea we have also another problem of marine products processing like shrimp shells. So all these byproducts and waste contain valuable ingredients that can be utilized to develop new next generation materials. So some of these are polymers, others are secondary metabolites. The polymers like polysaccharides can have a wide range of application in pharmaceutical industries, in food packaging, in the biomedical industries, and the others. So these secondary metabolites also are very useful in developing new food supplements, nutraceuticals, and the new drugs. So because some of them contain antioxidant activities, antimicrobial activities, so we can use them to develop new antibiotic. We can use them to test new potential cancer therapies. So many other potential. So there are a lot of potential in the agricultural waste, and we need to revolutionize the food value chain to make sure that we are actually valorizing these systems. So to be able to valorize agricultural waste, there are things to consider is the engineering aspects that is lacking heavily in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. So one of unit operation that is very crucial is extraction. So how do you get the material that you want from this food waste? So the current extraction systems that we call conventional or traditional extraction system utilizes a massive amount of solvents that are toxic, and some of them are flammable and result in environmental pollution. So because they are discarded after use in the running water or in the ocean, therefore deteriorate, contributing to the deterioration of our ecosystem. So we are trying to work with non-toxic and safe solvents like water and carbon dioxide. So how can we use water to process things that have high value? So we use water in what we call subcritical water. So by using a thermodynamic system of water, we can elevate the pressure and temperature and have water that have the capacity to extract the materials we desire from food waste and transform it into materials like packaging materials that you are seeing here. And also we use carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is actually an emission gas that is causing huge problems in terms of climate change, but we can use it actually as an extraction solvent. We can use to create new generation materials. So for example, we can use to extract caffeine from coffee. This is just one simple example. So there are many other potential, like extracting pigments from shrimp shells and utilizing them to make new food supplements and skincare products that prevent skin aging. And the essential oils that have antimicrobial activities can be extracted also from orange peels and be utilized to create cosmetics, pharmaceutical ingredients, as well as creating biosensors from antocyanin from grape skin and seeds. All these are the potential of utilizing agricultural waste into new materials. So one other aspect of my study is in making sure that this product we produce are stable. So we apply nanotechnology and materials engineering, and we design
We're running out of time.
yeah, an interacting system in which these materials are stable. So this encapsulation system is used in drug design and in nutraceutical design, cosmetic design, to make sure that what we are producing is going to be delivered where we intend them to be delivered. So we can increase the bioavailability of active molecules by entrapping them in small nanoparticles, and we can make sure that they are going to arrive in your bloodstream and go in the site where we want them to treat the problem. So here are different types of encapsulation systems that we apply in our studies, both liquid and the solid state. And I hope that my research will have a significant impact on bringing down the different processing systems that will add value to agricultural waste and creating new economic opportunities. So as a conclusion, I think designing integrated systems that are engineering integrated systems that are clean and sustainable in Africa is paramount to making sure that in the future we will have farmers producing things, and what is even remaining in the farm, which are inedible parts of plant material, will be transformed into materials that can be used in different other sectors. We have the potential with abundant natural resources in terms of agricultural resources, which we can use to transform into many products, including medicine, including cosmetics, including other advanced materials. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Please give a big hand. Yes, thank you for highlighting the highlights of creating new valuable materials for the food value chain waste. Thank you once again. And now, last but not least, please welcome Ludivine Esther Makufu Mu, Smart Convergence in Information Security at Busan University of Foreign Studies, speaking on automotive hacking. Please welcome her up to the stage.
안녕하세요. Hi, my name is Ludivine Esther Mo. I'm from, sorry. Oh, it's not going to the next slide. Oh, perfect. I'm from Togo, a small country in West Africa that a lot of people unfortunately don't know. I have a Bachelor of Science in Political Science, and my main research used to be criminology, and especially children's rights. And I also have a graduate certificate in cybersecurity, and I'm currently studying Korean with the hope of starting my master's in cybersecurity next year. Sorry. So I'm going to talk about why I choose Korea, but it's not moving. Okay, perfect. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I originally came to Korea just for the language learning because I'm passionate about languages. But while in Korea, I realized that Korea has a lot of opportunity for the type of research I want to do. And I also believe that Korea is a good example for a lot of African countries because when we see where Korea was 40 years ago and when Korea is now, we have a lot of similarities in our history and in our background, which is the reason why I've decided to stay in Korea and pursue my master's degree here. Another reason, I'm first going to go over my agenda really quick. So I'm going to explain why I choose this topic, what is the Internet of Things, what is automotive hacking, and the focus of my research. So first, why I choose this topic. Actually, last year during COVID, I went back home for the first time in a long time, and I realized that technology was advancing really quickly. Before I left, we didn't really use Google Maps for anything. We didn't have a delivery service. And we used WhatsApp, but we didn't use WhatsApp as a constant tool for selling. It was just for communication. And I realized that things were moving fast, but the security aspect was still lacking. Actually, on this picture, you can see one of the two biggest startups in Togo, Gozem and Deliverum. And Gozem recently bought Deliverum, and they're the first delivery service, but they're also the West African Uber. And actually, this Monday, they became the first Togolese startup to raise over $10 million, which is really impressive because usually, mostly English-speaking African countries are the ones that benefit the most from technology advancement and donation. So it's something that's really rare for a French-speaking African country. Okay. So, like I was saying before, I realized that there was a lack of security structure while using the app. The first time I tried using Gozem, actually, it didn't really give me any security aspect. So I didn't have, the driver could know where I live and everything, but I didn't have any way to communicate with other people. And actually, the driver can call you and they have your number, but you are not able to call the driver, for example. So it's really easy for a driver to track you and to go back to where you're living. And also, I realized that we were using more and more online payment, online technology. For example, with Gozem, you use a digital wallet to pay, which was really rare before. And because of this lack of security, I decided to focus my research on the Internet of Things. Before I go over what it means, I also wanted to show a little bit of what I mean by a lot of people don't know Togo. So the map up there is actually an African map, but this is not Togo. But when you Google, it tells you this is Togo. This is actually Benin, and it's a usual concept, like it's usual misconception that even on Google, it's hard to find where Togo is. Then I wanted to talk about who can benefit from my research. So first of all, the African industry as a large can benefit from it because a lot of African countries, as my colleagues have said before, are using more and more technology and we are advancing in technology. the car industry can also benefit from it. More African and more youth in Africa are buying cars, using car, and connecting to their car. Governments can also benefit from it because it might become an issue. It's already a rising issue, but it might become a bigger issue if the more people being connected to the internet. I also believe that it can create a lot of jobs for the youth because a lot of young Africans are a bit tired of the same old jobs, in my opinion. So having a more technological aspect and using more technology in something we are already doing can benefit a lot of us. I mentioned Hyundai in Korea because Hyundai manufactures car and it also uses connected car, which is basically the main issue with automotive hacking. And it can also be helpful for general education for children, how to use things, so a refrigerator or anything, the ring light or the Alexa at home. So what is the Internet of Things? A lot of people hear about it, but a lot of people don't know about it. Basically, the Internet of Things is using anything on your daily life and connecting it to a network. So having your refrigerator connected to your kitchen sink or to your Google Home, it's already part of the Internet of Things. Also, the Internet of Things benefits us in different areas, especially it makes life easier for all of us. By using connected appliance, you know, for example, when your food is ready, your car and your family may know where you're going and things like that. But I will only focus on the automotive industry here. So I'm going to talk about what is a connected car. So basically, a connected car is a car that has access to the internet or connected to other cars or appliances. So having your phone network connected to your car or the city Wi-Fi in your car is a connected car. In Korea, for example, your car can also be connected to your bank, which when you go to a new city, the bank take the money directly. And also, you can communicate with your phone, you can receive call, you can send your location, and everyone around you know basically where you are. There's a lot of advantages to the IoT for cars. So like I said before, access to navigation, advanced security feature will help reduce the chances of accidents. It also helps reduce the chances of losing your car or getting your car stolen. In Korea, it has also helped decrease the number of stolen cars because your car can be tracked. It also provides a security for your family, for example, so like your family members can know where you were. Or in the worst case scenario, if you get kidnapped, the police can track your car and see where was the last place you were at. But there's also a lot of disadvantage which come with automotive hacking. Actually, prior to 2015, a lot of car companies didn't take automotive hacking as a serious issue until a Jeep was hacked remotely, and the hackers were able to stop the Jeep in the middle of the highway without being there. And I think over 1 million of the Jeep were recalled, and that represents a huge loss for a company, but that could have been worse because the hackers actually notified the company in order to help them. But for the future, it might not be white hackers, it might be black hackers, which means they can use this for different things, such as kidnapping again, but also this can be used for a terrorist attack in the future. If you can have access to a remote car, imagine what you can create on a busy highway in the morning, for example. And I also wanted to point out that connected cars are not limited to smart cars like Tesla, for example. Any car that has any type of connection with the internet can be affected. There are actually different types of hacking, such as the one that a lot of people don't realize is the key fob hacking. Sometimes your key fob can open other doors, but also if a hacker gets access to your key fob, it can look like you lock your car, but your car is still unlocked. They can have access to your car, steal from your car. Your car also have access and keep your personal data. You can also listen, your insurance company can also listen to what you're saying in your car through the black box. And you also have a lot of third-party apps connected to your car that can have access to your car. And even if you disconnect your phone, for example, from your car, the information is still there. No one is really erasing it, which can create a lot of personal data theft. So, like I said previously, the example of the key fob, the black box, but also a lot of private conversation can be recorded and used against you later. And the car, like I mentioned in the previous accident, was also stopped at the wrong time. Someone can use your car and deviate your car to another direction, and you might be liable or responsible for something you had no control over. So the two main questions of my research focus on who is liable when an issue arises with the IoT device. So if your Ring camera at home that you bought for the security of your children get hacked, who is liable, Amazon or you, because you bought the Ring light thinking you were doing something right, but someone else hacked on it, and Amazon can deny any liability because you chose to buy that device. There's also different aspects. So how can the internet, the IoT industry better protect us? Because we already know some method of hacking. So should we change the network structure of the Internet of Things, or should we keep the same network structure but implement additional security integration? Those are the two main questions that I'll have for my research, and as of now, I don't really have the answers. But also there's other areas that are really worth researching. For example, your medical devices can also be connected. I have friends that have insulin pump. If someone hack into your medical device or your phone, they can control the level of insulin in your blood, and this can kill someone if someone non-well-intentioned have access to your insulin pump and can monitor your glucose. This is something that has been really useful for people living with those diseases, but we also need to be worried and add a security layer to those devices. There's also an increasing use of AI in the Internet of Things, which can also lead to another question of who is responsible when AI fails us. I will conclude my research here, my presentation here, sorry, and yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Please give a big hand. Yes, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. And would you please take your seats on the stage for the next proceedings? Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard from all of our presenters. We will now proceed with the panel discussion, followed by a Q&A. So I would like to invite all of our presenters from session 2 up to the stage to take your seats. And once again, those of you who have questions from the floor, please raise your hands and we will hand over the mic to you. Please state your name, where you're from, and who you are referring to. And once again, to our viewers online, we would love to hear from you. We are waiting for your questions, your comments, so we look forward to your active participation as well. So now, to start our panel discussion, we would like to first hear from our advisors. Professor Kim Geri.
Thank you very much for your presentations. It was all very much interesting. You talked about the circular production and food engineering and cybersecurity, all talked about different and interesting topics. All those topics are really important, not just for Africa, and they're also important for Korea and other countries as well. So I think your research will be really beneficial for other countries as well. I have one question about one of your presentations. My question goes to Ludwig, and of course, the technology advances quickly, and the government has to catch up with the speed of technological development so as to protect personal data and to have in place security. I would like to understand what kind of measures are being implemented by the Togolian government in order to protect personal data from the breach of security.
Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, as of now, we don't have a lot of governmental implementation. So that is also a main issue because I believe the government doesn't really see cybersecurity as one of our main issues, although it has been proven time and time that some of our neighbors come to Togo and use the internet to breach security because they know that the Togolese government and Togo in general is not yet prepared and don't have the tool to track those. So I think there's still a lot to be done, and I would like the Togolese government to take cybersecurity as a real issue in our country, because a lot of misinformation, for example, is being also spread on WhatsApp, but nothing really is being done. The only thing that's done is sometimes they cut off WhatsApp, or sometimes they choose what social media they can take down, but that doesn't really change much. That just stop the people from communicating, but it doesn't really help them. They don't really have an implementation system of how to protect the people, or even how to educate people. A lot of people don't understand how to use the internet, or are not prepared for the speed and the advancement that is coming and that we are already seeing in the country.
Yes, thank you for your answer, and thank you so much for your question as well. Next, Professor Kim Hee-soo.
네, 세 분 다 너무
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation on some of the most urgent issues that we face, and especially as a byproduct, various wastes of food has been discussed by Mr. David.
In Korea, after the outbreak of COVID-19, we are seeing increase in the packaging material waste. So, of course, we can extract valuable materials from food waste. Maybe you can research the possibility of extracting materials from food packaging waste.
Much. I understand your question very well. There is a big problem with packaging waste, and today part of our research is also transforming what we extract from food waste into what we call biodegradable packaging material. So current packaging material are made from plastics which don't degrade over a long period of time. Some of current packaging material may take 200 years or 500 years to degrade. And we are now trying to produce what we call active packaging films. These ones can offer the same value as these plastic bottles that we are using that don't degrade. But after use, we make sure that they can degrade in a short period of time. So I showed one small example of an active packaging film. So that's one of areas that we are integrating food packaging and the food waste. So take food waste, byproducts, transform them into biodegradable packaging material, use it. If you throw it in the ocean, it will dissolve in water and it will not harm the ocean marine ecosystem. And if you throw it on the soil, it will degrade in a short period of time. Usually we are trying to put the lifespan under 100 days. So this is a very big achievement. I think in the future we'll be starting to see those materials coming out.
Would you have any more questions? Okay, we have a question back there. We need a mic.
David, thank you so much. Actually, I met him 10 years ago in Rwanda University. I taught food technology. I am very happy to meet you, and especially your result is very nice. I want to ask you, when you back to your country, which food waste or byproduct wait you for industrialization, for exportation, to make money for your country? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. It was I was very glad to meet you here again. That's my professor and one of influential people in my life, and he's the one who made me fall in love with Korea much more. And thank you for the courses also you taught me. And not only the courses in the class, but also courses about life. So about the agricultural food waste that I think will be useful to valorize in my country and actually create more, improving our export. I think our country, a tropical country that have a lot of tropical fruits, and much of these tropical fruits produces huge amount of waste in terms of fruits peels and inedible parts of the fruits. And as I demonstrated in my presentation, these inedible parts of the fruits, they have essential oils like orange peels. We produce a huge amount of orange peels in my country. So the technologies that I'm working on today are useful in transforming those orange peels into essential oils. And these essential oils, we are now using them to produce some new antibiotics which are derived from natural resources, and we are using them also to produce new cosmetic products. I think in the future, when I'm back in Rwanda, I will make sure that I bring with me some of these technologies so that we can first start with fruits byproducts, fruits and vegetables, and extract these materials so we can try to create a solid industry that is based on the fruits and the vegetable waste, especially in the areas of cosmetic manufacturing and in the areas of pharmaceutical industries, where I think in our country we are lacking so much, and there is huge potential to make money inside the country and also in terms of exports. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing your insights with us, and thank you, Professor, for your question as well. Now, we have received a question from YouTube. This refers to Wamba Kasonga Dahaura. Okay, is there previous research on image recognition of copper and cobalt, which has shown that if people are able to recognize cobalt or copper and avoid it, can they avoid the negative effects it can cause?
Thank you for the question. I think there's no research about copper and cobalt classification. I think I'm the first one, if I can say that. And about the side effect of copper or cobalt, it's a really high effect because, as you know, copper has many radiation. So in my country, many people are living beside that kind of minerals. So some people, they are not educated, so they didn't know if it's copper or cobalt. They cannot distinguish these images. And because of that, many people are having some disease they didn't even know. Even some ladies, when they have babies, maybe have some malformation when they are born. So then I think if I can classify images, copper and cobalt, at the end, I'm going to deploy this application on mobile phone. That means at the end, I can build an application, those other like iOS application or Android application that can deploy to user. So everyone can access the application install on their mobile phone, and easily they can detect that this is cobalt or copper, so they can be aware of this kind of thing. And also the most important thing here is it's not easy to build or to train this kind of neural network because, as I said in my presentation, we don't have a data set which contain copper and cobalt. So even now, I'm collecting the data from my country. My friend take a picture, different pictures sent to me, and I process the data. It takes a lot of time. And because I don't have enough data for that training, that's why I use the NASNet. NASNet is a powerful neural architecture search. And even though I don't have enough data, so I can just build this MNN using NASNet, can extract the data, and I can build an accurate model for can detect this is copper or cobalt. And in the future, it's going to be very helpful even for my people in my country. So when people can install this application on the mobile phones, they'll be able to detect and classify these images, copper and cobalt. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer as well. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to all of our presenters for session 2. Thank you once again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the workshop. I'd like to thank all of our presenters for sharing your excellent knowledge and in-depth information with us, and especially all of you for being part of today's workshop. Now, we will close the workshop, but we have more coming up. Please join us at Korea Africa Youth Ideathon, which will start at 1 p.m. Korea time, and we look forward to seeing you there as well. Thank you once again, and enjoy.